$2 billion gone in flames, an unimaginable loss, both in sheer value and in strategic importance. Ukraine's deadly strike has crippled a vital artery in Russia's oil supply, sending shockwaves through the country's energy sector. Today, October 11, 2025, a massive fire rages at one of Russia's largest oil refineries, lighting up the night sky for miles around and drawing the world's attention. This was no accident, but a calculated Ukrainian drone attack. An operation planned with precision, designed to inflict maximum damage. The strike has sent shockwaves through the Kremlin, leaving Russian officials scrambling, while global energy markets react with volatility and uncertainty. The cost is staggering, not just in dollars, but in the blow to Russia's economic engine. Yet the implications reach far beyond the immediate destruction. This attack marks a dangerous new phase in a war now fought over infrastructure, not just territory. The battlefield has expanded to include the very lifelines of a nation. NATO watches with growing concern as the conflict spills beyond Ukraine's borders, raising fears of a wider escalation that could draw in more countries. Ukraine's message is clear: it can strike deep inside Russia, threatening the heart of its war machine and demonstrating a reach that few thought possible just months ago. By targeting energy facilities, Kyiv aims to choke off the funds fueling Russia's invasion, hoping to weaken Moscow's ability to sustain its military campaign. It's a high-stakes gamble, risking unpredictable retaliation from Moscow. The world holds its breath, knowing that any response could escalate the conflict even further. For Ukraine, it's a necessary risk in a fight for survival, a bold move to shift the balance and send a message of resilience to both allies and adversaries. The world waits anxiously for Russia's next move. In capitals across Europe and beyond, leaders and citizens alike brace for what could come next. The attack has upended the fragile balance of the conflict, forcing military strategists to rethink their plans and raising the stakes for everyone involved. It raises urgent questions about the war's future, Europe's energy security, and the stability of the entire region. The consequences could ripple far beyond the battlefield. How will Putin respond to such a direct blow? The answer could bring more destruction, or perhaps a new phase of the war, one even more unpredictable and dangerous. The flames at this refinery may ignite a much larger, more dangerous fire across the region, threatening to engulf not just Ukraine and Russia, but the world in a broader crisis. The stakes have never been higher. As the world watches, the next chapter of this conflict is about to unfold. The war in Ukraine has entered a new and devastating phase. Energy infrastructure is now the main battlefield, and the consequences are felt far beyond the front lines. Pipelines, power grids, and refineries have become prime targets for both sides, as each seeks to weaken the other's ability to sustain the war effort and daily life. To win, each side must cripple the other's ability to function, turning off lights, halting trains, and draining fuel supplies, leaving millions in darkness and uncertainty. Attacks on infrastructure have become systematic, not sporadic. These are not isolated incidents, but part of a deliberate strategy to undermine the enemy's resilience. Russia uses waves of missiles and drones to dismantle Ukraine's energy system, aiming to plunge cities into cold and darkness and to sap morale. In response, Ukraine now strikes at Russia's oil and gas industry, targeting refineries and depots, aiming for the economic core that fuels Russia's war machine. For Russia, destroying Ukraine's power grid is about more than military advantage. It's about breaking civilian will, disrupting daily life, and crippling military logistics. For Ukraine, hitting Russian refineries disrupts the army's fuel supply and inflicts economic pain, hoping to slow the advance and weaken the resolve of Russian forces. This tit-for-tat war on infrastructure intensifies with every strike, as both sides escalate their attacks, pushing the limits of endurance and resources. The consequences ripple through economies and civilian life, raising the risk of humanitarian catastrophe as shortages and blackouts become the new normal. Each attack escalates the conflict, making recovery harder for both nations and stretching emergency workers and resources to the breaking point. The war is no longer just about military advantage. The lines between military and civilian targets have blurred, putting entire societies at risk. It's about dismantling the very foundations of the modern state: power, industry, and the ability to provide for citizens. The energy war is a dangerous, high-stakes game with leaders making critical decisions under immense pressure, knowing that one misstep could have global consequences. Every strike brings new risks for Ukraine, Russia, and the world, as energy markets react, and international leaders scramble to prevent wider instability. The outcome of this energy war will shape not only the future of Ukraine and Russia, but the entire region for generations to come. Ukraine's operation was a masterclass in planning and execution, showcasing not only tactical brilliance, but also the courage and innovation of its armed forces. Every detail was meticulously considered, from intelligence gathering to the timing of the assault, reflecting a new era in modern warfare. Under cover of darkness, advanced drones flew deep into Russian territory, evading sophisticated air defenses with remarkable agility. These unmanned aerial vehicles, equipped with cutting-edge technology, navigated treacherous skies, demonstrating Ukraine's growing expertise in drone warfare. Their target was the Ryazan oil refinery, a critical hub for Russia's fuel supply and military operations, essential for keeping tanks, aircraft, and logistics moving on the front lines. The drones struck with pinpoint precision, igniting massive explosions and fires that lit up the night sky, sending shockwaves through the region. The refinery's vital distillation units were destroyed, halting production and crippling a key node in Russia's energy infrastructure. This single attack removed a significant portion of Russia's refining capacity, disrupting fuel supplies for both civilian and military use. It was a stunning success for Ukraine and a humiliating failure for Russian defenses, exposing vulnerabilities in what was thought to be an impenetrable shield. The strike demonstrates that Kyiv can now threaten strategic assets deep inside Russia, shifting the balance of psychological and military power. The psychological impact is profound. No part of Russia is truly safe, and ordinary citizens now feel the distant war closing in on their daily lives. The message to the Kremlin is clear. The cost of invasion will rise, not just on the battlefield, but at home, in the heart of Russia's own infrastructure. Ukraine's capabilities have reached a new level, with homegrown technology and international support fueling rapid advancements in drone warfare. The war's front lines now extend far beyond Ukraine's borders, turning once secure Russian territory into potential battlegrounds. The stakes for both nations have never been higher, as each side faces new risks and the world watches the conflict escalate into uncharted territory. The Ryazan strike's consequences for Russia are severe. $2 billion in damage is just the beginning. A major chunk of Russia's refining capacity is gone, creating a critical energy bottleneck. Gasoline exports are banned, but fuel prices still climb, hitting ordinary Russians hard. Rising costs add to the strain of sanctions and war, fueling public discontent. The Kremlin scrambles to repair the damage, but sanctions make sourcing parts nearly impossible. The attack exposes vulnerabilities in Russia's security and undermines its image of control. Repairing the refinery could take months or years, leaving the energy sector wounded. Domestic opposition may grow as the economic pain deepens. Russia's war machine now faces a serious long-term setback. The backbone of its economy is under threat. Moscow's response was swift and brutal. Within hours, Russia unleashed a massive wave of missiles and drones across Ukraine. The targets power plants, substations, and gas storage, Ukraine's energy lifelines. Cities like Lviv and Kharkiv plunged into darkness as the power grid collapsed. Russia aims to weaponize winter, hoping cold and darkness will break Ukrainian resolve. Railways and bridges were also hit, disrupting military logistics and civilian movement. This pattern of retaliation is designed to terrorize and demoralize. Yet, after years of war, Ukraine's spirit remains unbroken. Each attack only strengthens their determination to resist. For millions of Ukrainians, the energy war means daily hardship. Rolling blackouts leave families in cold, dark apartments for hours. Simple tasks, cooking, charging phones, studying, become monumental challenges. Hospitals rely on scarce generators. Surgeries are postponed. Care is compromised. Water supplies are disrupted, raising public health risks. The destruction of the power grid is a deliberate attempt to create a humanitarian crisis. The psychological toll is immense. Constant sirens, fear, and uncertainty. Children grow up in bomb shelters, their childhood stolen by war. Yet Ukrainian resilience is extraordinary. Communities organize, businesses adapt, and invincibility points offer warmth and power. People schedule life around blackouts, refusing to let terror win. The fight for light and warmth is now part of the fight for freedom. Ukraine's spirit endures, defying Moscow's attempts to break it. The gravest danger looms at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Under Russian occupation and near the front lines, the plant is at extreme risk. Attacks on infrastructure have repeatedly cut it off from the power grid, forcing reliance on emergency generators. Fuel for these generators is limited. One miscalculation could trigger disaster. The International Atomic Energy Agency warns the situation is precarious. The plant's safety is threatened by both accident and potential escalation. Russian rhetoric about nuclear options adds to the danger. The world watches helplessly as calls for a security zone go ignored. Ukrainian staff operate under immense pressure, essentially as hostages. Zaporizhzhia is a terrifying symbol of the conflict, a nuclear shadow over all of Europe. A single mistake could have catastrophic consequences far beyond Ukraine. The war is no longer contained, NATO is on high alert. Russian drones have been spotted over Poland and Romania, testing NATO's defenses. These flights are provocative, gathering intelligence and probing for weaknesses. NATO scrambles jets and lodges protests, walking a fine line to avoid escalation. The alliance increases air patrols and surveillance, sending a clear message: NATO territory is inviolable. Analysts debate Russia's intent, testing unity, psychological warfare, or warning of escalation. Each incursion raises the risk of miscalculation. A single incident could trigger NATO's collective defense clause. The drone flights are a high-stakes game, pushing Europe closer to wider war. Russia denies drone incursions, calling them Western propaganda. State media paints NATO as the aggressor, fueling confusion and mistrust. Both sides wage an intense information war, battling for control of the narrative. Escalating rhetoric and attacks push both sides to greater risks. Ukraine's deep strikes may force Russia to escalate further. Russia's attacks on civilians may prompt the West to send more advanced weapons. Each step up the ladder brings the risk of direct NATO-Russia conflict closer. The energy war's outcome will shape not just Ukraine's future, but the world's.